Hey everybody, welcome back to another round of Inside the Clinch. Eric and Johnny back for another week of MMA content. We hope you guys enjoyed the two interviews we had last week. We were joined by UFC's Miranda Maverick. She was our first UFC guest on the show, and also the face of BKFC, Britton Hart. She was our first bare knuckle boxer to be on the show. So two great guests. Those are out on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So be sure to check those out, guys.
Yeah, two spectacular guests. Had a really great time talking to them. I'm not gonna really spoil it for you guys, but you guys should definitely go out and listen to them. Would love to have both of those ladies back on the podcast. It was definitely a great time talking to both of them. So go check it out right now, as Eric said, on all podcast platforms and YouTube. And give us your thoughts on it. Give us your likes, subscribe, share it with your friends, and let us know what you think.
So, John, there was a couple events that went down this weekend. We had UFC Cannonier versus Gastelum go down. We also had Manny Pacquiao was boxing as well. And we have some upcoming fights we're going to talk about later in the show as well. Barbosa versus Chikadze is a big fight in the bantamweight division that I feel like has been flying under the radar. Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley is finally going down this weekend. And when we get to the end, there's actually a bunch of fight events both Friday and Saturday night. So I'll be sure to just read off all those once we get to the end of the show.
Yeah, but before we get into all that good stuff, how's your week going, buddy?
Week is going all right. Stressful as always. It's the middle of the week, but I'm glad to be doing this with you just to get away from all the bullshit going on in the real world.
Yeah, me as well. And to the audience, if I sound a little different this week, it's because I'm overcoming a cold. And if I'm sniffling and coughing throughout the podcast, that's the reason. But it's okay. It's not COVID. I'm vaccinated.
But yeah, let's get into it, man. So we have for the main event this past Saturday, we had Jared Cannonier taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Pretty close fight, in my opinion. I thought Cannonier did enough to get the job done going into the decision, but from what we saw online, it looks like some people are upset with the win. Kelvin Gastelum tweeted out that he thought he won the fight. So what did you think?
I thought it was a very close fight. I know a lot of fans are coming at Gastelum for saying that. I mean, obviously he lost. It was clear if you watched the whole fight, it was clear that Gastelum lost the fight, but it was a very close fight, as you said. I scored it 2 rounds for Gastelum, 3 for Cannonier. But listen, Gastelum currently 1-5 in his last 6, but he's losing to some fierce competition. He's losing to some of the best people in the division. So I don't know what's next for Kevin Gastelum. A lot of people are saying cut him from the UFC, all that stuff. I don't know if that's necessarily the solution to him. And I don't know what is, but maybe a step down in competition, maybe a different division, but I really don't know what's next for Kevin Gastelum. But Jared Cannonier, he looked outstanding out there. He looked not only did he look technically very sound, he looked very powerful, and he looked very composed throughout the entire fight. So I was very surprised to see Jared Cannonier win the way he did, and I think the fight with Israel Adesanya, if it were to ever happen, I feel like it would be a very exciting fight.
Yeah, so just to read off some of the stats, the final stats of the fight per the UFC's website, 91 total strikes for Cannonier versus Gastelum's 89. We had 81 significant strikes for Cannonier versus Gastelum's 89. No takedowns for either of the guys, but Kelvin Gastelum attempted 8 takedowns. On paper, this fight was very close. They had almost the same number of strikes. I mean, you can see that Kelvin Gastelum was attempting the takedowns, but no success there. The fight didn't really take too much time on the ground, so it's primarily a striking fight. Like you said, Jared Cannonier is probably going to be fighting for the belt sometime soon against Israel Adesanya, assuming that Adesanya can retain his belt versus Whitaker. I don't see how Cannonier would win. He's a great guy both in the ring and out, but realistically, I mean, I think Adesanya is just too superior in his striking. He knows how to use his distance very well. I feel like he'll be able to keep Cannonier at a distance. I don't think Cannonier is particularly a great wrestler, so it's not like he'll be able to take the fight to the ground to disengage Adesanya. So look, I like the guy a lot, and he has a very bright future, but I don't see Cannonier having the key to Adesanya's puzzle. Kelvin Gastelum, on the other hand, is currently ranked number 9. He's 1-5 in his last 6 fights, so not looking great. There is a good contender I think would be an interesting matchup for him coming up in the divisions. There is Kevin Holland coming in at number 14. He's a interesting cat in the division. He's one of those guys that's been making a lot of noise, and with the exception of his last 2 fights, I thought he's been performing very well.
You think this is a good matchup for Kevin Gastelum, or do you think this is a matchup that Kevin Gastelum should take because he's probably going to win? Because
He
everyone knows the
needs that
key to
win. Yeah, he
he's
needs
gonna
that.
he's bro. As of right
Look,
now, there's a big hole in Kevin Holland's game, and it's figured out by everyone in the world. Like if you watch Kevin Holland fight, you could see how to beat him. You know, you and I probably go fight him, or we'll probably beat him because we'll just take him down. He's really bad there, you know. And Kevin Gastelum, like he's not the best wrestler in the world, but he's very powerful, and he does have a wrestling background. So I feel like that'll be the key to victory for him. So I don't know if I mean it's a nice fight, two bigish names. And I feel like that would be a good night for Gaslam, but I don't know if that's the fight to make.
look, I mean, Gastelum needs a win at this point in his career because he's not looking great. And we've seen the UFC's cutting ties. And although, we all agree that Kevin Gastelum has been losing to good competition, those are still losses nonetheless. Look, Kelvin Gastelum, I think he still has a lot of great fights. So I feel like he needs to get that ball rolling again. And someone like Kevin Holland, that's a relatively big name for the division considering how low he's ranked. So, maybe that's a fight night main event right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we never know what the UFC is gonna do. We just seen what happened with Damian Maia. They just cut him out from the UFC roster. I don't think that's the solution with Kevin Gaslam. I think that Kevin
Before you
Gaslam.
continue, they were about to feed Damian Maia to Khamzat Chimaev, so they saved that man right there. So they had to kind of let him go.
Hamza Chimaev has some very nice prey though in front of him, man. It's gonna be a sick fight. What's the kid's name? Zhang Liang.
Li Jiangliang, yeah.
Li Jingliang. The kid's a beast. He's a very young kid, but I feel like it's going to be a very, very tough night for that kid. And the audience probably knows how big we are on Hamza Chimaev. I know there's a lot of haters on the internet against Hamza Chimaev, and not even against Hamza Chimaev, against all the Dagestani fighters. I'm not like a fan of their lifestyle, but like in terms of fighting, they're
They know how to scrap.
some of the greatest fighters in the world, and Hamza Chimaev, man, I feel like he's just on the brink of something great. And but yeah, let's get back to Gaslam. Gaslam, I don't know. I don't know what we should do with him. Maybe a different division. That's one solution. Maybe a step down in competition. As you said, Kevin Holland, that is definitely a step down in competition. I don't want to see them cut him. Kevin Gaslam, I know you're not his biggest fan. I know you guys had a little altercation at MSG when you were working the event and he didn't say hi to you or whatever.
No, I wasn't working at the event. I've ran into the guy several times, and the guy doesn't like to say hi to his fans. So fuck that guy.
Yeah, true. But besides that, I don't want to see him get cut. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I don't want to see him get cut because he's fighting some fierce competition. He's still looking pretty good. But I feel like this is not the division for him. He's not gonna really do anything in this division. Like we've seen what happens when he fights some of the best people in the world. Chris Weidman beat him. Chris Weidman choked him out. So like that says something.
I still can't believe that happened. He was winning that entire fight. I have no idea how that happened.
No offense. Yeah, he knocked Chris Weidman down. I remember that. But that's no offense to Chris Weidman, but Chris Weidman is not. He used to be good, but he's definitely regressed a little bit. And a regressed Chris Weidman was able to beat Kevin Gastelum. And I don't know if that says anything, but I think it implies a little bit.
Look, we've seen Gastelum take a beating over the last few fights. Thankfully, no serious injuries, but I'm sure it's been accumulation of damage. Even if we can't see it, I'm sure it's affected him, whether it's his perception of speed or, just his overall movement and motor skills and everything. Look,
yeah,
I may not like him, but he does have some great fights. And there's plenty of people that would like to watch beat up Kelvin Gastelum. So I really hope he does stick around in the UFC.
Yeah, as Usman likes to say it, I feel like I heard him say this on podcasts before, but he says that after every single fight, you lose a part of yourself, like not physically or anything like that, but like something inside of you dies. That's the way he likes to describe it. So
going to war, man.
After so many wars, we've seen how many wars Kevin Gastelum has been. It has to take some toll on his body and some toll on his mental game. So it's hard to see him lose sometimes, but it's the UFC and it's the best fighters in the world. So there's no shame in that. Yeah, so moving along the card, we had Mark Matson, the Olympian, defeating Clay Guida via split decision, 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. I thought it was a very close fight. Matson turned it up in the third. He's Olympic silver medalist. Honestly, I expect a lot more from him. When I saw him, I was very excited to see him fight. He didn't really rely on his wrestling at all, which I was really surprised about. It was a very close fight. It could have honestly gone either way. Clay Guida is still putting on a show after all these years. It wasn't really the
Crazy.
most. It wasn't really the most fun fight to watch, but Mark Matson gets the job done, defeats legend Clay Guida, and I'd like to see him fight somebody else. But as of right now, looking at him, he doesn't seem like a complete fighter. He looks like an awesome dude for sure, and he's going through some struggles outside of the octagon, which I'm gonna bring up in a second. But it's hard to see him defeat a well-versed striker.
Mark Matson moved to 11-0. So, he's starting off his MMA career to a great start. Like you said, he was a silver medalist in Greco-Roman in the 2016 Olympic Games. So, pretty great start to a short career, 11-0. It's pretty great in my opinion. He suffered from a broken jaw last year. His wife got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I think earlier last year as well. So he's been dealing with a lot of stuff, mentally, emotionally, and all that. So to see the guy still be able to perform so well, I thought it was a very well-deserved win. I was very happy to see him win. And, I'm hoping this win not only helps his MMA career, but hopefully with the money or whatever success is going to come his way after this, hopefully they can, shift the positivity into their family life. And hopefully his wife gets the help that she needs.
Yeah, you brought it up. MS, very tough disease. Like you never know how it's gonna affect you. Some people it affects really bad, some people it doesn't. So all the best wishes to his family. I hope he does succeed in the UFC. But just to be truthful, like just from a spectator watching him fight, he did get clipped twice badly by Clay Guida, once in the first and once in the second, I believe. He did turn it up in the third, but if that's a younger kid, a better striker, a more powerful striker, that he would have been out, And as I said, I want to see him succeed, but he does need to learn either how to defend or rely more on his wrestling. Yeah, so we had Parker Porter defeating Chase Sherman via unanimous decision. So moving on the card, we had Sadyukov Kakramanov defeating Trevin Jones. Sadyukov came just on 4 days' notice, a kid from Uzbekistan. You wouldn't be able to tell that he's from Uzbekistan based on his post-fight interview. I mean, he does mention that he's from Uzbekistan, but when he started talking, I thought he would have like a thick Uzbeki accent, but he sounded like he was Americanized for a very long time. But third round, guillotine choke, beautiful, beautiful stoppage. Prospect in division for sure, defeating a tough Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones, I heard them talking on the broadcast saying that he's like a champion in no-gi grappling. So the choking out somebody like that on 4 days' notice, and he said that give him 8 weeks and like you'll see the difference. So I'm excited for the kid. He said that Uzbekistan is on the map. I'd love to see that. There's some Uzbeki fighters that are making statements in the UFC, but the kid's a stud, and I'm excited to see him fight somebody else.
Yeah, like you said, Trevin Jones is a contender. He's not just some scrub in the division. And look, not only was it a sub in the last round, it was 4 minutes and 40 seconds in the last round. So the fight was pretty much almost done. 20 seconds left in the fight. He was able to secure, like you said, a very beautiful guillotine that got the beautiful stoppage for the night. So great performance. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him back.
So moving on the card, we had Vince Pichel defeating Austin Hubbard via unanimous decision, 30-27. Just one thing about that fight, that mustache though. That mustache is serious. Vince Pichel at age 38 still making it happen. What did you think? Have any thoughts on the fight?
Pichel is definitely growing on me a little bit more. I'm definitely growing to be a fan of his. This was actually one of the more exciting fights of the evening. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing him come back.
Yeah, so to open up the main card, we had Alexander Pantoja defeating Brandon Royval. I know that you were a fan of this fight. Alexander Pantoja looked outstanding out there. Submitted Brandon Royval in the second round, and then after the fight, he calls out in a very really respectful manner. He calls out Brandon Moreno, the current champion, who he defeated twice, once in an exhibition and once again in the UFC. So what did you think of the fights, and do you think that Pantoja is a future UFC champion?
So this is actually a great fight. Amazing way to start off the main event, in my opinion. I was actually rooting for Royval going into this fight. Not really sure why now that I saw how it kind of played out. I don't know. Royval's just been kind of appealing to me. He kind of looks like one of the more, I don't want to say child, but like he looks younger and smaller compared to the rest of the division, even though it's flyweight, the smallest division. And I thought he had some pretty good performance a couple of fights ago. But Pantoja, fucking stud, man. That guy's been creeping up the division. Like you said, he's beat the current sitting champion, Brandon Moreno.
Twice.
Look, I was I was saying that I thought Askarov deserved to fight Moreno next just because of how long of a streak he's on. If that fight doesn't get to play out, I feel like Pantoja versus the champ would be great, and then Askarov versus Figueiredo would be a great contenders match because I know Figueiredo's been trying to get a rematch for that belt again. So look, I think if you match the four of them up that way, I feel like you can get a nice little bracket going, and we'll have the next couple of months planned out.
So to wrap up the preliminary card, we had Austin Lingo defeating Luis Saldana via unanimous decision. Following that, we had Brian Kelleher defeating Domingo Pilarde via unanimous decision. Kelleher, he looked great out there. Those takedowns were the difference in the fight. And after the fight, he calls out O'Malley. I know that you're very high in O'Malley. And in this fight, I mean, it's hard to bet against O'Malley, but with those takedowns, if he could land some of those on O'Malley and keep O'Malley down, Kelleher is a really powerful dude. So I don't know. I feel like it would be a tough fight for O'Malley. I'm not saying that Kelleher would win, but I'm saying that I wouldn't be too surprised if he does.
I am a fan of O'Malley's, but I'm actually a big fan of Brian Kelleher's as well. His last few fights have been really exciting. His personality is exciting. You know, the way he fights, his style is exciting to watch. So he's definitely someone I've been keeping an eye on, and I'm going to continue to watch. Like you said, if he does fight O'Malley, probably O'Malley will get the hand over him. But like you said, the takedown is what's going to be the difference here. You know what I mean? We haven't really seen anyone utilize takedowns well against Sean O'Malley, and even though he's a blue belt in BJJ, I don't think he's going to do very well on the ground with a great grappler. So Brian Kelleher, he's been actually calling out O'Malley over his last couple of fights, and he actually two or three fights ago, he said he wants Dana White to crush up Sean O'Malley, roll him up, and serve him up to him so he can smoke him. So I think it's going to be a great fight.
I think that'd be a great fight with a lot of heat behind it. Brian Kelleher, not the greatest wrestler, but he knows how to use his wrestling when he needs it. So as you said, it'll be an awesome fight. Moving along the card, we had Jose Nunez defeating Bea Malecki via first round KO. This was one of those
insane.
This fight was insane because if you look at the size difference between the two girls, Jose Nunez is such a small fighter. You could hear DC in the background saying how she's his favorite fighter because he's obviously making a reference to the size difference. And she gets that knockout finish. It was insane. What did you
Dude, it was like what, a 9-inch height difference, 7-inch height there, like a huge height difference. And I thought maybe
like looked like there was a big strength difference as well.
Dude, it looked like 3 divisions apart. Like they did not look like they were in the same division at all. It just looked like a huge disparity. But holy shit, Jose Nunez, she put the lights out on Bea Malecki. So what a knockout.
Yeah, moving on the card, this was one of my favorite fights on the card. William Knight defeated Fabio Charant via first round KO. This dude, William Knight, is a freaking monster, dude. Dang. Like I saw somebody, one of the reporters, say that he once benched 245 pounds for 48 reps, and that backflip he did afterwards. Like the dude is freaking huge. And like he's gonna be a problem for a lot of people in the division. Not the most technically sound fighter, but he's just so powerful and so built. Like it's gonna be a really hard test for a lot of people in the division.
Yeah, I would like to see his technique. I would like to see him develop some more technique, both in striking and wrestling. But yeah, the dude's built like a fucking tank, and I mean he's a stud. Another one of those contenders I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I definitely want to have him on the podcast. I'll reach out to him, see what he says. But yeah, what a stud. Yeah, so moving on the card, we had Ignacio Bahamondes defeating Roosevelt Roberts via third round KO. This was just a trend, KO after KO after KO. And the first fight to start off the card, a spectacular card, we had Ramiz Brahimaj defeating Sasha Palatnikov via submission. I had Palatnikov coming into this fight, but great job by Ramiz, and what a great card, man.
Yeah, both of those fights were great ways to start off the fight. Bahamondes actually made me a little bit of cash. I made a last minute bet on him. He was, I believe, like 145 or 150 underdog. So great bet. I was happy I placed that one. But yeah, great card from start to finish. Manny Pacquiao was also boxing this weekend. He lost via unanimous decision to Yordenis Ugas. I actually had a friend that I used to work with that was at the event in Vegas, and he's actually Filipino, so he's a huge Manny Pacquiao fan. But from what he told me from our brief conversation, he said it sounds like Father Time might be catching up with Manny Pacquiao. Seems like he's slowing down a little bit. He still said it's possible that Pacquiao may have another couple of fights, but he wouldn't be surprised if that was his last performance. And hey, I hope it's not. Manny Pacquiao is just a legend inside the ring and out. The dude's a politician. Like he's
He's
literally
running
the
for he's running for president. But
amazing
yeah,
dude.
I don't know if you watched the fight. I didn't watch the fight. I saw the stats afterwards, but
Yeah, I just caught the
from
highlights.
from what the stats were showing, it was a pretty close fight. But Ugas did have the advantage. He did win by a slight margin, and I don't know. I'm not gonna be too upset if Pacquiao retires. He's over 40 years old. He's really done almost everything there is to do in boxing. He made so much money. He made a name for himself, helped so many people, and now he wants to run for president. He said that after his fight, he said there's bigger issues than boxing, and he wants to run for president. And I don't really know anything about his political side or anything about that, but best of luck to him.
Yeah, I know he's a senator right now. I mean, not that I'm involved in Filipino politics, but I haven't heard anything negative ever being said about Manny Pacquiao. So, like I said, legend inside the ring and out.
I don't know if I ever spoke to anyone about Philippine politics. So, I mean, next time I have a Filipino, I have some Filipino friends, so I'll ask them for their opinion on Pacquiao. But I have
I'm
no idea
curious
how.
now what the
Yeah,
take
me
is.
too. We should we should ask our Filipino friends. But yeah, let's get into some news nuggets, man. I know that you love the news nuggets.
All right, yeah, let's get into the news. So Brendan Schaub was in the news earlier this week. He saved three kids from a car that was crashed in the highway. He said that he saw one of the kids waving. His wife actually pointed it out, so he was able to drive over, get onto the car, get a couple of the kids out. Upon getting to the car, he said that he saw the lady who appeared to be the mother in the front passenger seat. She appeared to be dead, brains all over the place. He saw some guy who he assumed was the father was running away from the scene. That guy was actually hit by a car on the highway and was later arrested by the cops and charged. But apparently, what happened here was that this man was trying to kill his family, his wife, his kids. So with three kids in the car, I believe they had a fourth one. I know they had four kids in total. I'm not sure if all four were in the car. I know three of them were, but the guy drove onto oncoming traffic and crashed into an 18-wheeler. Very tragic story. Thankfully, Brendan Schaub was able to get there and save the kids, at least get them out of that mess. He got in touch with the kids' aunts and, he said he wanted to help them any way he can, not just with the funeral expenses and all that stuff, but, he was trying to think of a way how he can help these kids going forward, just dealing with the traumatic experience that they just went through. But he said he doesn't really know how he can do that, but he would love to do so if there's any way he can.
Yeah, it was very devastating. If you guys want to listen to it, he talks about it on his show, The Fighter and the Kid. But yeah, it was, as you said, the story. I'm not really exactly sure you got the gist of the story. But Brendan Schaub, he's a hero. He's a hero. He saved three kids' lives. Apparently, some of the kids were saying, "I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die," and he was reassuring them that you're not gonna die, trying to calm them down. And afterwards, saying that he wants to help them, wants to help the family. It's honestly a beautiful thing. And a lot of people don't really like Brendan Schaub for like various reasons. His personality, I don't know, like people just tend to not like Brendan Schaub, but regardless of their feelings about him as a person, as a commentator, any of that, this act was really heroic and good for him. But he did throw his wife under the bus. I'm not gonna let that one slide. He said that when they saw him, the wife said, "Just keep driving, keep driving." He's like, "No,
Oh
I can't keep
yeah.
driving." So he kind of threw his wife under the bus while being. I'll let it slide because he did save those kids' lives, and that's the most important. But come on, Shav, like that's why. This is why I was just saying that people don't like him. This is why, because he does shit like that. But nevertheless,
Look, like you
I'm
said, he
along
saved
for
those
that
kids.
crime.
So whatever it is he said, I feel like you can put all that behind him because like a
Yeah, for
greater
sure.
good has been carried out here.
Yeah, you know me. I just have to throw some negativity in there. But my brother's religious listener of King of this Thing, and apparently, he was talking about when he was recording something, somebody came in apparently with a knife and tried to like kill him. And this is like not something that
During
should be
the
talked
recording of
about.
the podcast?
While yeah, something along those lines. I don't know the complete story, but somebody apparently walked into their studio and like threatened to kill Brendan Schaub or something happened. I definitely want to look into it more, but
Is
he's
this in
going through a lot
relation
of.
to this or is that like separate?
I'm not sure, but this apparently happened recently as
Wow.
well. I'm getting this story from my brother. I haven't looked into it myself, but if this is the case, Brendan Schaub is going through some exciting. Exciting is the wrong word to say, but some
Turmoil.
some crazy times in his life right now.
Yeah, it's wild. Another guy in the news though, for saying some crazy shit. We have Khabib Nurmagomedov, former UFC lightweight champion. He's been getting a lot of shit for his opinions on multiple things. He was on Mike Tyson's podcast recently, Hot Boxing.
I'm excited for this topic. Let's go.
He basically asked Mike Tyson to put away, I think it was the weed and like fast food or like unhealthy food or something like that. He asked to like get it, further away from them for whatever reason. And Mike didn't seem to get that upset with it, but from a lot of the public, they seem to be upset that Khabib was walking into quote unquote Mike Tyson's house and then basically telling Mike what to do. I feel like the haters just need something to hate on, but that's pretty much why they're upset. But aside from that, on a separate statement, Khabib.
No, I want to make a comment on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So what it was Mike Tyson. Obviously, his show is called Hot Boxing. Mike Tyson, if you guys haven't watched it, he smokes weed on the show. Henry Cejudo is the co-host, and they had Khabib on, and apparently like they were smoking weed. I didn't really watch the whole thing. I watched parts of it. But Khabib said something like get the weed away from me, or like get that bad food away from me, or something along those lines. And like I don't really blame him. It's just Khabib's personality. But he also needs to understand. I understand where the fans are coming from as well. He needs to understand that he came to a show called Hot Boxing. So, like, he should understand that there's going to be weed there. And I know that he knows Mike Tyson for being a legend in the sport of boxing. But now Mike Tyson is a pothead. That's what he does. He smokes weed and acts weird on his podcast. Like, that's what he does. So those comments didn't really bother me. The comments with the ring girls, that's what. Hold
on. Before we get there, I don't think that Khabib made a big enough deal out of the moving the stuff. I feel like he asked if they could move it. Like he didn't make it like an issue or there wasn't much. I feel like the media and the public made it a bigger deal than it actually was.
I think that just stems off him saying what the bigger thing was basically that he doesn't understand what their need for ring girls is. And
yeah, so that's the next thing that he
say. Yeah, go for it. I want to hear your side of it first.
So Khabib got even more criticism for saying that the ring girls are basically the most, I think the word was useless people in the MMA game.
Something along the lines of they're not necessary. Like what do we need? People carrying around a card with the number of the round. Like what's the point of that?
Look, I mean, Khabib's. Everyone knows Khabib's religious beliefs. He's very, very conservative. His wife, we don't even know what she looks like. The one or two pictures that there are of him and his wife, she's covered up from head to toe. It's the guy's religious beliefs. People are constantly acting like, oh, this is like the thing with the weed, the thing with the girls, like this all is pretty much from the same point of view, like whether it's a religion or just like his conservative perspective on life in general. I mean, that's the man's perspective. And I feel like for everyone to get outraged and shocked every time, something else parallel to this ideology, like, comes up, like it doesn't make sense. Like, that's how he is. And that he's going to be, how that's going to make him be on certain other topics as well. Like that's just the guy's, like how he was raised.
I understand that that's how he was raised. I understand that he has his own beliefs, and that's totally fine. He's a Muslim. He's a Muslim guy. He's a religious Muslim person, and this is not right in his religion. But he also has to understand that these girls, first of all, millions and millions of people like it. Like disgusting people like you, yourself, and myself. We enjoy that stuff. We enjoy shit like that, and like. Obviously, before you say something like that, you have to understand that people are going to get upset with it because just because you think of this doesn't mean that a lot of people are going to think of that. And that's not to say, what about the girls? Like the girls, these like they're ring girls, but they're also actual people at the end of the day. Like, what is he trying to imply? Like, oh, these girls should get fired because their job is unnecessary. Like, you also have to look at it from that. I understand he's conservative, but you also have to understand that he's not the only person in the world, and he can't just be saying shit like that. And with the fans overreacting about this, I understand it. And what people don't remember is Islam said something very similar about girls. He said that girls fighting shouldn't be allowed, and that was kind of like put under the bus. Because Islam isn't really as big of a name as Khabib. But like, yeah, as you said, it's in their culture. I get it. But like, I just feel like he should know better than to say something as conflicting as that.
I don't know. I feel like the guy is allowed to share his opinion on what he thinks, what he likes and doesn't like. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
I don't think this is something he particularly.
It's discrimination.
Well, actually, this interview happened in Russia. No. This interview happened in Russia, not in America. He got reported about in America, but the interview went down in Russia.
Okay, but he became famous in America as like he came to UFC, a promotion that's run in
Look,
the United
I
States.
think the GOAT is entitled to whatever opinions he wants to have, if you
He's
ask me.
Yeah, he's entitled to whatever he wants to say, but it's just not. I personally don't think it's right to say that about girls just because that's his belief. That's fine. Don't look at them like you don't do that in your promotion. But I feel like just to play that down, I feel like it's wrong. And I
Look,
understand why the fans are upset because we're all pigs. We all want to see the hot girls. And when someone says something that offensive, we're going to get offended by that. You know, like, shut
that's a
up. I
fact,
want to see the
baby.
girls. I want to see the girls. Let me give you a
Ariani
warning.
Celeste, Brittany Palmer, man, I wish those girls stayed here forever, man.
Yeah, well, like seriously, man. Like, some people just tune in just for the girls, you know? Like, it is what it is.
Oh, it was great. I was at the Bellator event a couple of weeks ago, and I was sitting right by the walkouts, and they had the ring girls coming out right before the fighters would walk out, and the guys behind me, I swear, he came just for the ring girls and to cheer them on and to wave at them. He didn't. I don't think he knew a single fighter. He wasn't cheering for a single fight, but every time those girls walked by, he was like cheering and waving at them and trying to get their attention. So, like, look, it is an aspect of the sport.
Yeah, but this new narrative, after all this, people are saying that Khabib is Karen. And the memes online are
So
hilarious.
Patty the Batty, actually, the newly signed UFC prospect, he actually said that MMA fans are what was the word? More embarrassing than Conor McGregor fans, which is pretty funny.
No, Khabib fans are more embarrassing than Conor
Sorry,
fans.
Khabib fans are more embarrassing than Conor McGregor fans. It's I mean,
The funny thing about all this is that Khabib is not even understand what a Karen even means. You know, it's American culture. He's gonna be like, oh, what's Karen? Smash this guy.
all right, man. Let's get into one last bit of news before we break down this weekend's upcoming card.
One more update on the news that we're going to discuss is Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje, which is apparently happening. It was said that a few weeks ago, Michael Chandler said that he wasn't comfortable with getting the COVID vaccination because his major reason was because it's not FDA approved. And as we know, Pfizer has been approved a few days ago by the FDA. And Michael Chandler responded to somebody on Twitter saying that regardless of whether it's approved or not, now he's kind of switching his whole stance on that and saying that he doesn't want it in his body, which is whatever. It's his body. Let him do his own thing. But they figured something out. I don't know exactly what happened, but the fight is apparently happening on November 6th in Madison Square Garden as planned. So that should be exciting.
So I can give you guys some personal experience just working at Madison Square Garden before the pandemic. I know that now I still have some friends that work there that I keep in touch with. I know that they become a fully vaccinated venue. You have to be vaccinated in order to come to any of their events. This event is planned to be in November. So by then, I think they're assuming that most of the population will be vaccinated, even more so than are now, obviously. But Chandler, like you said, he said that he didn't want to get the vaccine just because it wasn't regulated. Then he just kind of said, I just don't want to get it, which, like you said, I agree is fine. So I'm actually curious because I feel like MSG would still have the final say on, whoever enters the building needs to be vaccinated. So I guess I'm not sure who gets the
I'm sure
authority.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know. They probably worked the deal out because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it looks like the fight is happening.
One thing that
MSG is letting it slide.
you have to be very careful in New York because I know a couple of years ago when they had the BMF belt, that year was a very tough year, even the year prior, because New York has much higher taxes than other states. So whatever little money the fighters already complain about them making, when they fight in New York, they have to give a bigger chunk of that away to taxes. Now, in the past, that has made a lot of problems for the big events at MSG because I know a lot of the big names, a lot of the people that can, sell out the event and make big
Don't want to
money.
fight there.
Yeah, they don't want to give away half of their money to taxes to a state that, they're not even living in or anything.
Completely understandable. Yeah.
So look, I feel like the matchmaking in New York, I feel like more so for the larger pay-per-views, it's like very fragile glass. Like you have to be very careful with how you put all the pieces together because one wrong move and you can like fall through. Like I said, the BMF belt, I remember there was like 6 or 7 original fights that all ended up getting scrapped, and it was literally like 2 weeks out from the event and we only had 2 fights on the main event. Like there was a panic mode. That's why they kind of slammed the BMF belt on there. They kind of put a few bullshit fights together last minute. The card turned out to be great, but just the way that the event was put together because of the taxes and the hard time getting fighters, it was just a hectic situation.
Yeah, with this case in particular with MSG, the world's most famous arena, I feel like there's a balance between the money, with the taxes that you just mentioned, and also just fighting in the most famous arena in the world. This is like the mecca of basketball, the mecca of boxing. It's one of the most famous arenas in the world. A lot of people say it and say they take that for granted, but it's fighting there. Some of the biggest fighters in the world, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, they fought in this place, and like fighting there is just it's an honor. I feel like to a lot of the fighters. So I feel like it's a balance between the money, between a lot of factors. It is New York. There's a lot of regulations, obviously, but I'm glad they got this job done with Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. Um, Very exciting fight. I mean, I don't know who I'm leaning towards as of yet, but it's definitely an exciting fight,
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm glad they
literally,
figured it out.
in my opinion, the fight to make in that division. I would have got upset if either one of them were matched up with anyone else. I feel like just their size, they're very similar size, they're very similar explosive style. Both great strikers with phenomenal knockout power and a great wrestling pedigree. My opinion, I do think that Justin Gaethje does hit a little bit harder and he is more durable, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far. So I would, right as of right now, before looking very in depth, I'm kind of rooting for Gaethje, but that may be subject to change
Yeah,
once I do a little bit more research.
yeah. Just to bring back Khabib, Khabib did say that Justin Gaethje is the hardest hitter that he has ever faced MMA. So Justin Gaethje definitely does hit hard, and he fought a weird fight with Khabib. So Khabib saying that after Justin Gaethje fought like that does say a lot. Um, I guess I did make my mind up. I'm going with Justin Gaethje, although I am a big Michael Chandler fan. Um, but we'll see what happens.
All right, John. Now let's get into the fights going down this weekend. For the UFC, we have Edson Barboza taking on Giga Chikadze, two amazing kickboxers. I think the best kickboxers in the division. It's going down Saturday, August 28th. The main event is going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern. Prelims will be at 7 p.m., both on ESPN Plus. Let's start off with the main event. Edson Barboza has moved down to featherweight recently. The guy's been looking great. He's a little bit up there in age, but the guy's still hanging in there like with all the young contenders. His speed is still there, his power is still there, his technique is growing as always. But he's going to be fighting a very, very motivated Giga Chikadze. These are both number 9 and number 10 ranked fighters, respectively. In my opinion, I'm very, very high on Giga Chikadze. I think he's very underrated in the division. I think his kickboxing is some of the highest level in the UFC all overall. I think as long as the experience of Edson Barbosa doesn't intimidate Chikadze, which I don't think it will, I think it'll be a pretty great night for Chikadze and a dominant win for him.
Yeah, Chikadze is a stud. He came to UFC through the Dana White Contender Series. He actually lost that fight to Austin Springer, but since then he's been on an 8-fight winning streak. His last fight, he defeated Cub Swanson early in the first round. Giga Chikadze is an outstanding kickboxer, but so is Edson Barbosa. But I would have to side with you on this fight. I think Giga Chikadze is going to take it. I feel like that his kickboxing is way superior to Edson Barbosa, and that's what he said. That Giga Chikadze said that in the fight, Barbosa is going to feel the difference in their striking ability, and he's going to turn to the wrestling, and he's going to see that he's not going to be able to take Giga Chikadze down. Is the fight going to play out like that? I don't know, but I feel like Giga Chikadze, the younger fighter, he's hungrier. He's from Georgia. We know what kind of fighters Georgia produces. So Giga Chikadze very high on him, as I said, and I think that he's going to get the job done.
You think he's gonna
Perhaps
get the
by
finish, or you think decision?
I think it's gonna be a decision,
Yeah.
most likely, but I think it's gonna be a decision. Yeah, I don't see Barboza getting knocked out like that. Like Barboza's fast. He's Barboza's nice, and but I don't see Barboza catching Giga either.
Look,
Very very
both
high level.
phenomenal kickboxers. I really hope this fight doesn't go to the ground at all. I hope they both just stand in the middle and fight, which I honestly see it going, because both of them are, like I said, phenomenal kickboxers that are not going to shy away from a good fight.
I can't see Barboza going in for the takedown against Giga. Like it's
Why? Neither one of them have tools
because
really on the
Giga's
ground.
good. He's good. I feel like because Barboza, I feel like is a little bit more experienced in grappling than Giga is. Giga's fresh off the kickboxing train, like he's just came into MMA. Barboza's been doing this for a while now, so I'm sure
You're
he's
not
a little
wrong.
bit. I'm sure he's a little bit more well-rounded in the grappling department, but I feel like he's not good enough to defeat him in that aspect. I feel like Giga could defend that, and it's gonna be an exciting fight.
So let me read through some of the other names on the card. We have Brian Battle taking on Gilbert Urbina. We have Ricky Tercios taking on Brady Highstand. And next, I found the man we've been looking for. Kevin Lee is going to be taking on Daniel Rodriguez. He had an opponent change about 2 weeks ago. He was originally scheduled to fight Sean Brady. He has now been booked to fight Daniel Rodriguez instead. Rodriguez is a tough contender. He's actually someone else he's actually a very, very exciting fighter for that division. I wouldn't say necessarily one of the highest skilled guys in the division, but definitely exciting to watch. He's tough. He's tough, and he puts on a show whether he wins or loses. But Kevin Lee, he had a lot to say on Ariel Helwani's show earlier this week. I don't. Do you mind if I get right into my opinions? I guess on what he said.
Yeah, go for it. I'm waiting for that actually.
So he said a lot of outrageous things in my opinion. So he believes that he is a top 5 welterweight. Looking at his record right now, he has 1 fight at welterweight versus RDA that he lost. So as far as I know, he's 0-1 at welterweight. He considers himself a top 5 though. Then he said that if he were to go back to 155, which he did say most of the reasons why he wouldn't go down is for the weight cut, which is completely understandable. But he says that the current champion who beat him, Charles Oliveira, has to get a few more wins before Kevin Lee would consider going back down to fight lightweight again.
I think that he said that he's gonna only go down to lightweight to fight Charles Oliveira. That's what he said.
Yeah, but only if Oliveira gets a few more wins, racks up a few more wins. Those were his exact words.
Did he said that.
He said those were his exact words. He says if he racks up some more wins, and later in the interview, he said that he made Charles Oliveira. Bro,
yeah, he did.
Get out of your own head. You're in cloud 9. I don't know what the hell. Like Kevin Lee's ego is just insane. I mean, that guy, man, like that alone. I always say Kevin Lee, his performance will depend on his mentality going into that fight, which we've seen when he's gotten into fights like the Gregor Gillespie fight. He looked phenomenal. The Tony Ferguson fight, even though he didn't win, he looked great in that fight, in my opinion. But I mean, this bullshit that he's saying now, honestly, I hope he gets knocked the fuck out.
That's completely fine. I understand where you're coming from. A lot of the things that he's saying is bogus, but listen, I just watched you told me that we're going to talk about Kevin Lee and the Ariel Helwani interview to listen on that, and I haven't, and I just did right before we started recording. But honestly, I like this. I like this Kevin Lee. He looks different. He looks confident in himself, and he looks like he's ready.
But it's overly confident. It's like he's almost overlooking his opponent because he thinks he's so much better. And I always hate when fighters do that. And like, just so people don't think I'm a Kevin Lee hater, I was a huge fan of Kevin Lee's up until maybe like 2 or 3 fights ago, when again, he just thinks he's the best and he thinks he's so much better. And like, I don't like when that ego is overly inflated. I feel like
I completely agree with you. His ego is definitely overinflated. He said that the stuff about Khabib, like he would have beaten Khabib. Khabib never fought a real wrestler.
Props to him. He was the only guy calling out Islam.
I don't give a shit if he was calling them out. Like, he's not gonna beat Khabib. He's not gonna beat Islam. Like, it's not gonna happen. Like,
that's another fight he was ducking. The Islam
their wrestling they're different wrestling than you. You're American wrestling, and that's not to take anything away. America is.
He's an American guy.
He's doing great right now. America's doing phenomenal wrestling right now, but Kevin Lee was not one of those Americans in the Olympics and Olympic medalist. None of that. Kevin Lee was a good wrestler in college, but like,
that's it.
But I mean, the things he said, I like seeing Kevin Lee this way. Like, there's people like Kayla Harrison, when she talks like this, I hate it. It's cringe. I can't look at it. When Kevin Lee looks like this, honestly, I don't mind it. I kind of like seeing Kevin Lee like this because I like watching him win. He's funny. He's funny. I don't know. He has a new tattoo that he's hiding with his hair. So
I don't know, man. I don't like the overly inflated. Islam is another one, which again, like I said, props to him for being one of the only guys in the division for calling out Islam and Khabib for many years. But now that Islam is making more of a splash in the division, they've given him Kevin Lee the question, like, how do you think you'd fight him? And he makes up excuses about, I don't see why I would fight him. I don't like.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand what he's saying because like now he's in a different weight division, and coming down to the weight division, he would only want to fight Charles Oliveira, which doesn't make sense because he was losing in that division prior. He was losing.
Since Kevin Lee called him out, since they called him out, like Islam has been fighting and winning. Kevin Lee's been where?
Yeah, but he's also Kevin Lee. No, Kevin Lee has underwent 2 surgeries.
Okay,
I know we always say. He
Fair.
underwent two. He mentioned that he's like the only one to ever undergo 2 consecutive knee surgeries or something like that. So he's been out for a valid reason. His last fights with what was his last fight? Du Bronx,
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira.
Yep.
I,
March
rem- I
2020.
remember. I remember that fight. That was right before like the COVID really began. You, me, and our boy Kubas were at Buffalo Wild Wings for that fight. I remember that. I remember that very specifically. But he did not look good that night. He did not look good against Charles Oliveira. He got dismantled. He did not make Charles Oliveira into the fighter that he is. Charles Oliveira is a beast. But Kevin Lee, as I said, I'm excited for him, and I think he's going to get the job done this weekend. And I really hope he does.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna be rooting for Daniel. I was rooting for Kevin Lee for the last couple of months that they announced the fight, like the original fight against Sean Brady, and even with the opponent change with Daniel Rodriguez. But I don't know. After listening to what he had to say, I'm going with Daniel Rodriguez for this one. Like I said, the guy's not the most skilled opponent in the division, but I don't
He's
like
good.
how
He's tough.
he's tough.
And I wouldn't be
I think
surprised if he
Kevin Lee's
wins
just
either.
looking. Yeah, Kevin Lee, I think, is looking past him, and I think this is a sport where if you look past anyone,
I think Kevin Lee, I don't know, he has like this God complex. He thinks he's talking about the Masvidals and like the biggest names, the Stephen Thompsons and like the biggest names at welterweight. And he's like, oh, who's that welterweight? Like, I'll bust all these guys up. Like,
dude, I think he got lucky.
The
Kamaru
Usman, you're not gonna be Kamaru Usman. Like, nah.
No. The UFC, I think, Kevin, when he joined the UFC, he was on a very great streak in the beginning. Like he was winning and he was looking great. And I feel like the UFC kind of was trying to build a star out of him. And I
think the UFC was doing the opposite with him, and that's what he complains about all the time. He's saying that the UFC didn't like bring him up, didn't give him the.
I feel like they did until he started to get his what was it, the first back-to-back losses that he had. I feel like
he has a lot to complain about. I don't know exactly. I really don't know. I have no comments on if the UFC was bringing him up or not, but I know that he's not satisfied with the UFC for that reason. So that's why I brought that up.
I don't know, man. I mean, this is going to be an exciting fight. I know that. I'm definitely looking forward to how this fight's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. You know, I've always been a Kevin Lee fan. I think he's a great fighter, but as you said, you can't piece it all together. You know, he calls himself a complete fighter, but he's not. Because
I must let the fans know what you said many years ago, maybe 4, maybe 5 years ago. You said Kevin Lee may be the guy to defeat Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is, I think, before Khabib got the belt.
I did say that.
Those are some ballsy words you had back then, man. Do you still stand by those words today?
No, I mentioned that like a few minutes ago that I don't think that he would ever beat Khabib. But he looked good. He does really look good. And I thought that, but I will give this to him though. He did say that Khabib never really faced a real wrestler. And I'm not saying he's the solution, but that is a legitimate point. Khabib never really fought a real wrestler that he's not gonna be able to take down. You know,
Kevin Lee would have been the best wrestler that Khabib fought for sure if that fight.
But I feel like Khabib would have still taken him down if he wanted to. Like,
yeah, different level, brother. Different level.
Different level, brother.
All right, let me read through the rest.
And before we forget about that, Khamzat is still in the division. Khamzat is still in welterweight. So Khamzat and Kevin Lee, that'll be an exciting one too. So he never got Islam and
I don't think
Khabib.
Kevin Lee stands a chance against Khamzat. I don't think he does.
Let's let this weekend pass and we'll make our judgment because we haven't seen Kevin Lee in almost a year and a half. So, you know, he's working with Faraz Sahabi. He has all his coaches that he always talks about, all these things that he's doing. So let's see how he comes back after those surgeries. If he's the same Kevin Lee, if his mental game is the same, and I hope he is, but we'll see.
All right, let me just read through the rest of these names. Wrap up the card. We have Andre Petrosky taking on Michael Gilmore. And then to start off the main event, we have your good old friend Gerald Meerschaert is making a return against Mahmoud Muradov, guy from Uzbekistan. I think Gerald Meerschaert is gonna literally this fight is probably gonna go the same way he did against Khamzat. I don't know if you guys have seen this guy Muradov. Crazy knockout power. The guy is amazing technique, and I think Gerald Meerschaert is gonna get put on his ass again very quickly.
Why is the UFC? I just have a question. Why are they doing this to Gerald Meerschaert? Like this has to be on purpose. They give him Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev, for you guys that don't remember the fight, Khamzat Chimaev just ran through him. He didn't even land a punch, I believe. And now with this Muradov guy, I don't know if it's gonna go the same way. Khamzat
very
feast,
close,
but I feel like it's gonna be a very dominant win by Muradov. So best of luck to Meerschaert, pioneer in the game, been around for a very long time. but no go for me.
He needs to pack his bag soon.
Poor guy.
Let me read some of the names on the early prelims. We have actually some pretty nice matchups. We have Alesso de Cricios taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan, two great contenders in middleweight. Sam Alvey's coming back versus Willington Turman in the middleweight division. Next, we're going to have Dustin Jacoby versus Darren Stewart at the light heavyweight division. I think that's another interesting fight.
The dentist represent.
The dentist. Then we have JJ Aldrich is going to be taking on Vanessa Dempopoulos. Jamal Emmers is going to be taking on Pat Sabatini. And then to start off the night, Mana Martinez taking on Guido Cantini. So some pretty interesting names on this fight night. Not pay-per-view level, but for a fight night, I think some pretty nice names put together in one card.
I think it's not pay-per-view level because obviously they don't have the names to be a pay-per-view level, but like these types of cards that fall under the radar that a lot of fans don't know about, the casual fans don't know about. These are the most exciting fights. Like we've seen the last card. I know the ending of the card wasn't great, but from the first to like the fourth or fifth fight, they were all finishes. Like on our Twitter, I was tweeting that another finish. Like these fights that go on the radar, they tend to be outstanding, and I'm really excited for this one. So should be a good one.
Yeah, guys. So some other events that are going to be happening this weekend. On Friday, we're going to have One Championship Battleground 3. That's going to be taking place in Singapore. Also on Friday, we're going to have the PFL Playoffs 3 that's going to be going down in Florida. You can catch that on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Also on Friday, there's going to be Invicta FC 44. That's going to be available on Fight TV, Access TV, and YouTube. Another fight we have on Friday, LFA 114, Souza versus Garcia. That's going to be available on UFC Fight Pass. As we mentioned as well, the UFC will be going down this Saturday. It'll be UFC on ESPN 30, Barbosa versus Chikadze. That's going to be on ESPN Plus and ESPN this Saturday. John, one last thing we completely forgot to talk about. Let's make it quick, though. Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley is going down on the 29th. I think we both agree here. We both think that Woodley needs to win, but we're not very confident that he can win. Am I correct in our assumption? Are we on the same page here?
I think I guess you have a point there, but I think that Woodley is obviously the better fighter here. Like so much more experience, so much more power, so much more everything. Like what does this Jake Paul kid have against Tyrone Woodley? But Tyrone Woodley's been on a skid, losing his last 4 fights in the UFC against some tough competition, but Tyrone Woodley's not looking the same. I don't know. I'm going to go with Tyrone Woodley at the end of the day because it's hard to bet against him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul gets the job done.
I think
it'll be so crazy if he does.
I think I'm going to go with Woodley as well. Look, if you look at the fights that Woodley lost, the main factor was that he was taken down and kind of Woodley wasn't able to do what he wanted to do standing up. He has a devastating right overhand. We've seen him put out many people with that. And look, we know Woodley can take a hit. He had
in 2016, bro.
But no one knocked out Woodley. You know what I mean? He was in there with Wonder Boy. He was in there with some like badass strikers, and they didn't really seem to. They hit him and they landed some great shots on his chin, and he didn't look that phased. He didn't look like he was stunned. The guy can take a good shot.
I think that was a different T Wood. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is a different T Wood. I'm not arguing that, but I'm hoping that whatever durability he had, hopefully is enough left to get through the puzzle of Jake Paul this weekend.
Jake Paul, don't ever say that again. Jake Paul is not a puzzle, and I hope you guys.
You're right. I take that back. Call the MMA police on me.
Because somebody, one of our friends on our Instagram, one of the MMA pages, made a good point. If Tyron Woodley loses now, the fans are gonna hate him, like because they're not gonna have respect for him because he just lost to Jake Paul. And Tyron Woodley wants to have a job in commentating and analyzing MMA, boxing, whatever he wants to do. And like with the loss to Jake Paul, I don't know how the fans are gonna take him seriously. I feel like they're gonna get over it after some period of time because he's not a young kid anymore. Like age catches up to all of us. I feel like this is an age thing. But if he loses, it's gonna be hard to watch, and I feel bad for the guy if he loses.
I'm going to make one promise to our audience right now. If Tyron Woodley is able to knock out Jake Paul, I promise I will buy one of his physical albums and I will have it on replay for the whole month. That I promise to the audience. So look, if Woodley wins by KO any round,
Any round, and we'll do a little giveaway if he wins.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
If Woodley wins, we'll do a nice giveaway, something that we haven't done.
I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna beat your ass.
we'll include the album in the giveaway. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's exciting. You mentioned so many different things happening this week. I didn't realize there's LFA and one championship, all that. Like, how do you keep up with all this bullshit? That's so crazy.
Yeah, packed weekend. John was great doing this again this week. Last week, I know we haven't got together, just you and I, to talk about these things. So it's been great catching up.
I feel like some of the best podcasts. I know it's awesome to have interviews and all that stuff. Like we have to act like we're professional and all that good stuff. But some of the I feel like best podcasts that we have is just me and you chopping it down. So yeah, I likewise, brother.
Guys, if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on our social media platforms. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thank you guys. Catch you next week.